Welcome to Live Shadow's channel. Before anything you subscribe to. My grandfather told this story when we went to the village for fun, of course, at our insistence. My grandfather used to say that one day after irrigating the fields, I was going back to the house for lunch. The land was like a hill. I saw a tall shepherd lying on top of the hill with his hat pulled over his face and his hands under his head. My grandfather said, I thought, this shepherd must have come from Ten Bagley and slept here. That shepherd was sleeping on top of the hill and my grandfather was also down. And he didn't pay the slightest attention to me, so he picked up a stone and threw it at the shepherd, saying that the stone should not hit the shepherd, but suddenly the shepherd got up from the ground like crazy. He ran towards me, my grandfather said, until the shepherd got up from the ground. I saw that his legs were round like horses' hooves, and the shepherd was screaming and yelling like a mute person and coming towards me. He said that he was very fast and took very long steps. My grandfather said that when I saw him coming towards me, I immediately ran to the other side of the garden and returned after a while. I looked behind me and saw that he was standing in the middle of the garden and he was just looking at me and he didn't follow me anymore. My grandfather used to say that he looked like a human but his feet were in the shape of horse hooves and he was talking to me like a dumb person. The night I saw a genie in the summer of my 19th year, after the university exams, I decided to walk in the path I always thought about. In my opinion, material life and the world were more absurd and pointless. I had no choice. On the advice of one of Sufism guidebooks, I started fasting with water. It had been 40 days, it was the night of the 6th day when my appetite won over my will and I ate a tomato. The water fast was over and I didn't have the strength to resume the 40 days. From the next day, I started the regular fast, giving up animals and giving up all material pleasures. My iftar was usually a piece of bread and water. After 10 days, I decided to start chanting at the same time. To read in the book, amazing and enchanting effects were written for each zikr. I chose to remember seeing wonders. The zikr consists of a short zikr 1001 times that I read 10,001 times every day, in addition to a prayer of almost 1 page that was 27 times a day and a relatively long prayer. The reminders worked much sooner than I imagined. It was the night of the 4th or 5th day after I started reading the zikr that when I went to sleep, it was as if my body fell asleep instantly, but I was completely awake in the black and dark space of my being, as if I was waiting. After about 2 hours, my eyes suddenly opened as if they wanted to pop out of their sockets. I was looking at the ceiling and I saw an incredibly beautiful sea on the ceiling, successive waves, a storm. As my eyes were fixed on the ceiling, I had no control over my body, I didn't even blink. It was like I was a stone. After a few minutes, I opened my eyes and went to sleep. This experience was repeated every 2 nights at the same time as the fasts and prayers. After that night, I saw the stormy sea on the roof twice more. The 3rd time there was a rock in the corner. Above the 2nd floor, there was a beautiful tree full of blossoms, because there was a spring near the palace. The 5th time, a crystal butterfly with wings with rounded corners, each wing about a hand's length, flew over my head and sat on the wall. That night, it was as if he was not in my body and was muttering unfamiliar Arabic dhikr. I was so happy with my experience that I had forgotten that I looked like the Walking Dead with black and bruised eyes. I was immersed in a new world that appeared every 2 nights at 1:30 a.m. until 2 in the morning. Even once in the afternoon when I was fully awake, I saw something. One day when I was reading one of the books, my eyes fell on a prayer related to the summoning of a genie. I don't know why I was so sure of myself at that time. After breaking the fast, I took a bath for a few rakats of Hajj prayer and then the long prayer to summon the jinn. Nothing happened that night. The next day, my grandmother came to visit. The child was shocked to see my face. She thought I was going to die. It happened that my loving grandmother forcefully stuck a cutlet in my throat by eating meat. My animal leave was invalidated and I could not read Dhikr without animal leave. My room had a large window overlooking the stone greenhouse. Above the greenhouse there was a skylight. There was no glass around the greenhouse. There were only a few small gold coins on the marble stone. The window of my room, which was about half a meter from the floor of the room, was always open, especially in the summer, when the skylight windows are also it was open and a cool breeze entered my room from the ceiling. 3 days had passed since I stopped leaving my pet. It was around 2 o'clock in the night and I was reading a scientific book. The place where I was sitting was about 1.5 meters away from the window. Suddenly, as if someone quickly turned my head towards the window, my eyes fell on the eye of a creature that was right behind the window frame. His look turned me into ashes. His average eyes were not white, they were black. There was a little light in his eyes. He had no eyelashes and eyebrows. His head was a little smaller than a human head. His head was in the corner above the window. It was obvious that he was very tall. His hair was short and full of raven hair. His very long forehead was smooth in contrast to the skin of his cheeks. He had thin lips and a wide mouth with a sly smile that wrinkled his gray face. I don't know how many minutes I was staring at him frozen. Seconds passed like hours. When I regained my senses a little, I wanted to take the name of God so that he would go away. But my tongue, it was like my tongue was born mute. The only thing that came out of my tongue was despairing like crazy. I was shaking my hands and thrashing about. He was staring at me the whole time with his sly smile. I couldn't even scream as if there was no one to help me. Finally, I noticed the Quran that I had placed on the old wooden table, or I was hoping, until I tried to cut it. The genie disappeared after that night. I repented. I didn't even read the zikr. It took me a long time to return to my normal state. 6 months after the incident, I would wake up covered in sweat and say delirious if I hit someone at night. I used to see him in the greenhouse, and I could not help but feel as if I saw him again now. A few years have passed since that story. Maybe I want to enter metaphysics again, but I will never go to demons again. Thank you, dear viewer. Don't forget to subscribe.